Yes, okay. We start the recording. Okay, I will share my screen now. Hello, everyone. Just a second. Yes, today we are going to talk about research data management, and this exercise we had a few minutes before is if all you could please unmute yourself, because I have, yes, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we had this exercise before this session, and it's interesting way to see to discuss about topic of sharing data. But I believe that before that, before the sharing moment, we should all get familiar with the data and manage it properly to be easy to understand and everything. So today we are going to talk about how you can teach this topic to your audience, to your researchers mostly. Yeah. The topic of research data management has many challenges when you are giving education on this topic. First of all, one of the biggest challenges is the just sheer size of this topic. It can be very complex. It involves a lot of things like that should be discussed, like what is research data, how it is treated throughout the whole life cycle. And there is also a huge topic about data management plans and FAIR principles, and the ways how you're going to share and publish your data, and the legal aspects of that sharing. That includes also whether data is going to be open or not, and on what conditions. So the whole topic is quite complex. It has a lot of information for your audience, and sometimes it can be really daunting. Another thing that is also a great challenge is the terminology. Although researchers are usually familiar with most of the things that are included in data management, so I found out that they can be confused with the terminology. That is something that is quite challenging, that you need to give them advice, inform them what is what. Also, it can be a quite challenge to with the whole misconceptions about data management. Usually, when you start when you start discussing with your researchers about data management, usually they think about opening the data, which is not the case. It is one of the aspects, but it is not the case. And I think that it can usually mean that you can start with dealing with these misconceptions early on. Another great misconception is data scooping. Because researchers usually fear that if they publish their research data, especially if they put it in open access, that somebody else will use their data and make some results much before them. That is a huge misconception, and there are ways to deal with this. Also, although research data management is a way of a good science practice, and it is recommended in most ways, but usually it is not mandatory. It is not embedded in institutional or national funder policies, and sometimes it can be hard to persuade researchers to comply with the research data management things, because it is time consuming. It is it can be also let's say time consuming, energy consuming thing, and it can be, like most researchers think, it administrative burden for them, and they usually want to concentrate on things like research, but not on this managerial side of research data. So it can be quite challenging to persuade them unless it is mandatory by your institution or founders' policies. So it can be a challenge, and I found that for myself that that was the biggest obstacle when I was giving training to my researchers. Also, it can be difficult to teach data management when you don't have right infrastructure. By that, researchers usually think of something that they have on their institutions, like repositories or other usually computational services that can help them in a way of providing good data management. It can be solved. There are a lot of open source solutions. There are a lot of free solutions that can be used. So if you don't have this kind of infrastructure at your place, you can find it online. There are a lot of places where you and services and tools that you can advise your researchers to use, and by that to apply a good data management practices. And yes, and like I said, lack of incentives is also a great challenge, because unless data management is somehow embedded in policies, other incentives that could be good for researchers are the way of promoting them. Unfortunately, in most cases, in most countries, most institutions, it is data citations and sharing data and opening data is still not recognized as a good thing to, as a good, yes, as a thing that can go and push somebody's researcher's career. So that can be challenges, but with good and proper training, and you can have, like Milica said in yesterday's session, you can have one or multiple big trainings for big educations for your researchers, and also you can have like smaller ones when you can deal with small problems, something that you find out during your training sessions that usually researchers find difficult to understand or to use. You can create some small courses for that, just to tackle these issues. So I will not go into details here with what is research data management, how it is going, because the topic here is about to teach you how to teach these topics to everybody, to your audience. I will just, yeah, you have on this platform on Open Plato, but you have also other resources online that you can find that are free to use, that you can find to educate yourself more on data management on this topic. What I'd like to say to my researchers is that data management is a way of good practice, good research practice, and that you should focus on the aims, what are the ultimate goals of the research data management. It is to have their data secured and preserved for a long term, for a long time. That can be very important for them, because usually they store, I know from my cases that usually they store their valuable data to local computers, which is not a good practice, but you can teach them how to and where to store their data and how to preserve it for a long period. And other thing which can be your goal is to persuade them that their research data has to be findable, that and once somebody finds the data, that must understand that data in order to be reused. And with reusability of data, with that reuse factor, you have more citations and more influence. Early on, what you should discuss is also what is research data. It can depend on your audience. I mean, if your audience is from some discipline, you should focus on what is research data for their discipline. But if your audience is, let's say, your university, where you have a lot of other disciplines that are usually not related to each other, like social sciences and natural sciences, you should concentrate on what is research data, what can be in more general terms. And also, one thing to remember, like there are many file types, data types around, but usually when we talk about research data today, we are talking about digital data, but it is not always the case. I mean, you can have also non-digital data, and that is also data. Like I said, it depends on a discipline, and you should be familiar with your audience and what are their requirements for that. And ask them early on what needs for their data to be understandable and reusable even after some longer period of time, and not just by the researchers that are from others from outside of their department or their institute, also even for them that can be valuable. They can probably try to reuse data that they generated maybe many years ago, and they are trying to use that data now in different terms. It can be sometimes challenging for them to understand what they meant and how they collected the data. So one thing in particular you should have in mind that your data and to teach your audience that their data has to have purpose for them and for others. Also, one thing to have in mind is that both research data and everything that follows that data, like metadata and other documentation, is meant for other humans to understand and to reuse. But also it should be made for machines to find and to understand and to reuse that data, because nowadays science is more and more relied on the computational activities with computers, and that's why the data has to be in such a way formatted and packed in such a way that even machines can seamlessly understand that data with no or minimal human intervention. And that is a huge thing that you have to address them and to keep that in mind. What are the benefits? And you you should explain that to them early on. The benefits of RDM is that, like I said, it's a way of good practice, good research practice, but also sometimes funder or institution or sometimes even publisher, they can require that through their policies. For example, we have now Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Wellcome Trust, which are huge international research funders. They are more and more asking for data to be delivered in open format, and you want, like, when it is delivered, you want it to be easily to find it easily and to understand it and reuse it. Also in Europe, we have these requirements with European Commission, and more national funders are requiring data to be properly managed and, if possible, open. One way of other benefits is that it can be improve scientific communication. It can improve much cooperation, especially if somebody wants to reuse the data. Also, it can, like I said, it can increase citations and also data is transparent. It can be reproducible, and what is also very important, that it can reduce costs. It can reduce through reducing of duplication efforts. It can prevent data loss. Like I said, data will be safe, and there are many more benefits. More you can find, the better. Like I said, there are a lot of misconceptions with data management. One of them is, like I said, data scooping, lack of control over data. That is happening when researchers are feared that somebody can misunderstand and misinterpret their data, and that it can provide some wrong result. But that is exactly why they should need good RDM practices, because with a good RDM, with good documentation, everybody can easily understand their data and how they collected it, how it can be used. Also, one of the concerns for researchers is intellectual property rights, legal rights, and that can be also talked about during your sessions. It is always, if you have a legal advisor in your institution, you can ask him or her to come and join you and try to persuade them and to teach them about this. But usually these misconceptions, these worries about our audience can be solved with good RDM practice. And one of the tips that I can provide is to be prepared on these topics. There will be a lot of questions usually on these topics, mostly, and also every discipline, every research department have their own issues, but most issues are around these topics that are written here. What is a good advice is to have what is so-called data champion. That is somebody, some researchers or somebody who has experience with sharing data with RDM, even if those experiences are like bad experiences. If, for instance, if somebody lost their data due to the negligence and due to ill practice without proper data management. So even that can be your somebody that can give a showcase of his or her experience, and that can be very valuable to you. Also, you can design a website, a blog post, or whatever. Maybe I think, well, why not on social media, where you can talk to your audience, give them some kind of explanations. Usually it can be like a Q&A session where you can discuss this in more details. Yes, and also promote these practices whenever you can. Organize workshops. You can build a website or social media. I think, yeah, on Friday we will talk about this topic on how you can do this. And usually it's not that difficult like it was maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Today is much easier to have that. One thing to consider early on when you are giving this kind of education is that managing research data is not something that happens at the very end of research process. It is not something that is reserved when all the research is done, and now researchers have their data and now they want to share it and deposit somewhere. You should tell them that data management should happen throughout the whole what is called research data lifecycle. That means that it has the beginning phase and all the way phases from collecting, processing, analyzing data, keeping that data safe, and later on it will go to the sharing data and trying to reuse it, just to repeat that circle all over again. If you look at this circle, it can be this life cycle. It can be divided in maybe 3 or 4, usually 3, like the holes. The first phase is the phase of planning, like I said, like before the whole research starts, and that is where everybody should think about their data management. And also data management happens throughout the whole active phase, like during the research, and it should go after the research, and even after the research is long finished or done. It can there should be some data management practices even after that. So I will go now through all these phases of research data lifecycle. On this first phase with planning, I will not go much to details because after today Irena will talk about this in more details. I will just say this few things that should be, have in mind, that, like I said, the data management starts with initial planning phase, when the whole research project is even in the planning. So all the researchers, everybody who are stakeholders and who are involved in this research project, and also with research data management, if you have librarians, everybody, IT department, everybody who can provide their assistance should join and to on making this document that is called data management plan. That is a way of good practice, and a document that everybody should specify how their data will be managed during the whole research process and even after that. So like I said, I will not go in much details here. I will go just to next phase. That is, sorry, that is this active phase of research. Things to consider this when you're giving workshops to your researchers is the way to how they should organize their data. Even if they are generating new data, or even if they are reusing some secondary data, that data should be need to be organized. It can be used with you can use things like file and folder naming. Also, the way to make this everything in some structure or hierarchical forms, and also they should think about versioning, and that their data should, if they are going to be changed over the course of research, that they should have versions to to understand which one is which. There, I will not go here in details. There are a lot of internet resources on that. There are a lot of good practices. You can read it more. I will just say that you should always try to provide some examples, and if you can provide them with some tools. There are many free tools like Entry Namer that is good for this bulk naming or files or folders, and so on. Also, versioning that can be done with your system. If you have a repository that has this version control system, it can be used, or manually if not, if there is no. Okay, so try to provide them as much as more examples. Also ask them for return information. How are they organizing data? And while you ask them, you can also teach from them. That is a good way to teach how are they organizing data. Another thing to consider is file formats. You should educate your researchers to comply to the best practices of sharing data, of preserving data, and that is to keep it in non-proprietary formats, on open formats, like CS, comma separated value files are more better than these Microsoft Office Excel files, which need proprietary software to use. So there are a lot of good examples here. I just put here 2 links, but you can also find it in OpenPlato on like some table of on good formats versus not that good formats that they can use. Even if they use some proprietary formats, they can use this. They can think of maybe transforming that proprietary formats into non-proprietary formats when they come to the finish thing of this data life cycle. When they come to the preservation of data, they should think of these non-proprietary formats, and this is something that they should think early on in from when they start their research. Another thing that is very important, and I like to keep this in separate training, is the whole documentation and everything that has to do with describing this data and put it in some contextual format. And like I said, the end goal is here to everybody to find and understand this data in order to be reused. So what is needed for data to be understandable is not just some tabular data should be put somewhere and shared online. It should have other things like code books, laboratory notebooks, even electronic lab notebooks now they have. Also, some textual files like README files are very good if you don't have any infrastructure that can be supported with this. And even if you have that infrastructure, README files are a great way to explain how researchers got their data, what they used it, and what each column of this, let's say, tabular data, what does each column mean, and in what hierarchical order are they connected to each other. That is something that should be given and provided with this topic. And also another great thing, and I found it with researchers that they usually don't understand this very much, this whole metadata concept. And yeah, it can be very difficult for them to understand when they are not in that field. For, I don't know, for librarians or data management, it is easier to understand because we are dealing with metadata almost on daily basis. But for researchers, I found it that if you give them examples like a library catalog, like if you have online public access catalog, it is a good example to show them from something that is familiar for all the disciplines, for all the science. They should know how to use a library and the library catalog. And also, what is also interesting example, you can use even catalogs, even databases, as especially when they have faceted research from the side, and where you can filter your searching. That is provided with good and rich metadata. So the more rich metadata is, your files and your data can be filtered out from all the noise, and it can be findable in that way. So that is a good way to make them understand the importance of good metadata and good and rich metadata, and good and full documentation. Also, during the research, they will use a lot of tools for data cleaning, data analysis. This depends on the research discipline. I will not go here in details, but you can ask your researchers what are they using for these processes, and maybe you can find some good open source or freely available solutions here. And why is this also important when you're teaching RDM is that these processes usually, but like any others, include costs. Usually if you are buying or renting some service or human activity, people to do all this kind of work of cleaning and analysis of data, that it can be, and it can be eligible for costs. Also, one of the things that is very important during the whole research, especially during the whole active phase of research, is that data needs to be kept safe whole time. And I found it quite practical to showcase this kind of worst case scenarios, like calamities, like burned computer or whatever, that is a kind of shocking image. And yeah, during this phase, you can provide them with some practical solutions, like how to back up their data, there is, for example, this 3-2-1 rule, but there are also many other rules that they can use in their everyday practice. And also advise them to have one or probably more persons, or if they don't have automated system for backup, they should provide and deal with people with researchers and who will have this role of keeping the data backed up. Also, one thing to remember is that to tell them that backup and long-term preservation are not the same. Usually researchers think that if they back up their data, if it's back up somewhere on the cloud or whatever, that it is safe and that they somehow manage this preservation phase for long-term preservation. That is not long-term preservation, and you should advocate for using repositories for that case, and the backup is just for the active phase. Also, when you're dealing with this, you should talk about access control. This is very important topic, and you should have extra time to deal with this and to provide them with some useful tools and services that they use for this. After the whole active phase of research is finished, data should be think of long-term preservation. This is very important, because not the whole data should go and be deposited somewhere in some storage or repository or whatever you are using for long-term preservation. One thing they should be aware of is that they should select their data, that they should do this appraisal process, and to specify how long will they preserve their data, or what data shall they preserve. And this is there are good information about this topic, how to know which data should be preserved and not. I advise you to look into it and to give them this kind of advice, because it is very important to know that some data, even though they can be regenerated again through some by repeating some experiment, it is also time consuming and costly. Yes, and they should know that that data should probably be preserved and for some time. Also, when you're on this phase of preservation, that is the time when researchers should deposit these file formats that can be opened and used even after some time. And that is why, like I said it early on, that to address them, to use as much as they can, to use good open and sustainable file formats. And also they should archive with their data also other documentation like metadata and other documentation that can provide additional information for that data. I will not go here in details with data sharing and publishing. We will also cover this today. Like I said, I like to give this topic separately from separate topic. And usually it is a good way to advise researchers how to select their repository and to provide them with this kind of tips. And also good way to know from the start which repository they will use, to specify that information in data management plan. that is why, because they will know which metadata will be used and which metadata to collect. And speaking of this, we had I think maybe 2 years ago, interesting thing that researchers from another institute asked us. It was a technological institute of Ethnology. They asked us, they had some old data that they generated many years ago, and they wanted to publish the data, to share it in some repository, and then they realized that it would be much better if they had geographical references like geospatial coordinates for all this data, and they didn't think of it when they generated the data. They collected the data from the whole samples from Serbia, from the whole country, and they didn't know that that was a valuable data for them, and now it's too late to collect it. I mean, they can collect it, but it will not be it will be time consuming and not very precise, which was their aim. So that is why to understand, to teach them what repository should they use, and to look for all the metadata standards that are used by that repository to know which metadata they should collect early on from the start of the research process. Another way is to publish in data journals and to choose license, like I said, will be talked later. Yeah, there are some criteria to how to choose repositories. I leave you to look at this, and to when you discuss to your researchers, this is something, some less. I mean, it can be more here topics that can be covered, but these are some things that should be considered when you are advising them on what repository they should use. And also, this is a time when you can demonstrate how repositories work and how they can deposit their data. So what are the training tips for this? And I will conclude this presentation with this. Try to avoid teaching everything about research data management in one event. I mean, one event in one session that will be, I don't know, in 1 hour or hour and a half, depends. It is a huge topic, and I prefer when it is breakdown in some bigger chunks that are more easier for audience to understand and to connect and to see what is their role and how they can contribute in all of that. Also, keep reminding them of the goals of good research data management, is that their data should be findable and understandable and reusable, and also to be safe and secured, especially if it is sensitive data. There are legal imperatives to protect that data from any unauthorized use and sharing. Early on, as much as you can, deal with all the misconceptions. Maybe you can start with this. Maybe you can start your presentations with this. I mean, to ask your audience, are there any difficulties for them to share their data with others? Like we said, we had early on, before this presentation, we had this kind of communication, imaginative scenarios. What would you do if somebody asks you for your data, and so on. Also, what is a good advice, I believe, is to have some researchers that had useful stories of their sharing and managing their data. It is good to have that kind of experience with you, because especially if you are not researcher, sometimes it is not that easy to convince your audience to believe you. And also, sometimes you can have difficulties to understand their questions. It can happen. So it's good to have some researchers with you. My tip would be to start giving this kind of educations, and you will find out. Usually, these researchers approach to you, and they have more questions. They present their use cases, and their experiences, and that can be very valuable to you for your later on presentations. Also, keep in mind that not all terminology that you will use, like metadata or control vocabularies and repositories, that can be something that usually researchers are not familiar about. So keep that in mind, that be patient with explaining these terminologies. Also, it's good to have some learning materials with you. If whenever you can translate that materials, but be careful for copyright and issues and credits and everything that should be keep in mind. So it can be done. All other materials that are helpful, like to direct them to some web page or anything that can be more informative for them, is a very good practice. Also, stay informed with the policies. Look for your institutional policies. If there is any, if there is not, you should think about writing and acknowledging that new repository, new policy. And also keep informed. This whole area is very much developing, especially in later 5 or 6 or more years. So there are many new advancements, new things that are going on. So keep informed with this, and this is a very good topic to give some extra services to your research, get extra education to your researchers. So thank you. I will stop sharing now. If you have any questions.
There was one from Jocelyn. Thank you for the presentation. My question is on the reusability of the data in data repositories. Besides metrics such as views and downloads, are we able to assess how researchers are reusing the data in our research data repositories? And Milica shared a link to a DCC guidance research. I shared a collection of open-air data reuse stories. And I agree that it's really an important angle, because we often hear from researchers, I need to spend so much time to deposit my data, but then no one would really reuse it because this data is only specific to my research. So if you have any comments around that, thank you.
Yes. That is common. Sorry to put my microphone. That is a common misconception that I have my data which is related to my particular topic and discipline, and nobody will reuse it. I disagree. I mean, research now is science is more and more multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary. So more and more, when you think about your data that is not going to be perceived with other disciplines, usually it can. I mean, and that is why it is the most important to have good data management practices. And if somebody else, for example, if somebody is using your researchers' data from, I know, social sciences, but they are using it in a new methodology way in some other sciences, like I don't know, maybe why not natural sciences, because of this collide to disciplines, it is that's why it is important for others to understand and to have as much as more information about this data, and the data should be organized in such a way that it can be understandable and reusable. So yeah, that is, I hope that is an answer. So feel free to say to your researchers that encourage them to know that their research data possibly will be used by somebody sometimes. So they should be aware of this. Okay.
Thank you. There is also one more comment. I'll read it, and then Dragana.
Can you hear me?
Okay, please go ahead, and I'll read the comment.
Thank you very much. I just would like to add one comment, which I think is important. The fact is, the huge problem is, and one of the reasons of misconceptions is the treatment of data or data sets from within the law of copyright. Why would researchers be afraid to share their data? And in this Menti inquiry at the beginning, we were telling how that young researchers should give data to the older researchers, and could that be an issue? The point is that under the law of copyright, works that are protected by copyright are works written or painted, etc., but not particular data sets. So being non-recognized by the copyright is, I think, the main obstacles for treating data, sharing data, since you consider as unprotected material by copyright. So within this topic that Obrad mentioned, about depositing in repository, it's not just for depositing and for sharing and from reusing, is in fact to overcome that problem of copyright protection. Why? Because when you deposit data into repository, in fact, you give that to data set one form which is necessary and which is a condition for some part of intellectual property to be protected. That means when you put data set into repository, you have to mention who is the creator of the data set. You have to add metadata. You have to add license, Creative Commons license. So by all these elements, you in fact give that data set particular form, and which is, as I said, a condition, and you overcome this problem that occurs within the traditional copyright law.
Yes, exactly. These are the benefits and good practices of why researchers should manage their data. Like you said, it's one way, and it should be addressed early on. because these are good practices that they should use, and they should be aware about early on. So because sometimes your audience can concentrate on negative sides, like I said, all the misconceptions, but and you can start with this, with you should be prepared for all the misconceptions about about research data and sharing research data, and with your prepared answers, which are a good RDM practice, can lead to persuade researchers, like Dragana said, to be aware of the copyright and safe preserving data, and making data more informative and in order to be reused. So yes, I saw I saw this comment, I think Stanislaus, yes. In the context of university, it will be good to be very clear where RDM services will be domiciled, library or ICT or research department. The reason is to ensure researchers have an easy access to RDM related services or training. Yes. This is RDM is not something that should be done by one person, or it should be deal with the whole institution, the whole university, and more people are in I think more people that are familiar with these topics, and they can provide some useful information. That will be even better service. If you don't have services like repository or I don't know, some useful services tools, like I said, there are a lot of freely available, open sourced or free available services out there on online, and we'll discuss this also later, that you can use, and you can provide it as your service, and be familiar with all, if not most of those services, and that way you can provide even more help to your researchers. So yes, thank you for your comment. Okay, why do other researchers, this is from Papa, why do other researchers reuse data? Is it to ascertain the findings or of the earlier research, or what? There are many reasons why researchers reuse data. Sometimes it is to try to use that data with different settings, with different methodology. That is something that is common, let's say, in astronomy. They have a huge volume of data that are coming from this, let's say, Hubble telescope or this James Webb telescope, and that are freely available. And it doesn't mean that the one who first got that data and had the right to first use that data doesn't mean that that person, that researcher, or that researcher team will come out with the biggest results. Somebody else can use that data, and with different methodology, that can provide some different insights that can be very useful, and some different results. So that is one way, one of the reasons for using data. The other can be to repeat the research, and that in that way validate the research, because science, the core principle of science is to repeat scientific findings. So science is not like religion. There is no ultimate truth that is not questioned. Everything in science is questioned, or everything, anytime, every time. So that is why, and one of the things that you can verify the question these findings is to reuse that data and to try to repeat the whole process, the whole experiment. Unfortunately, there are a lot of and they're not there, but there are some examples of bad practices, of bad science that sometimes scientists used reinvented their data. They are not generated from some experiments. So it is also a way to verify. There are many other reasons. I will not talk about this. Okay, this is answered. Okay, this is another answer from Irina. Thank you. Yes, and like Milica said, sometimes data are used in completely different research areas, like to test algorithms. Yes, that is also one way. Does it mean that's okay? I have a question regarding the time of reservation. This is from Zorica Jankovic. Obrad has mentioned that research should think about how long the data will be preserved. Does it mean that some data should be removed from a repository after some period of time, or this is regarding the data that are not stored in a repository? Okay, so about this, there are many aspects that should be considered about this time that data should be preserved. Sometimes you have institutional policies that have they say about how long you should keep your data in the repository. Other times you should think about the space you are using for repositories. The space can be freely available, especially if you have an institutional repository, and if there are no time limits applied by your institution, you can keep your data there for as long as you need. But sometimes you pay for storing your data in repositories. So that should kept in mind. Sometimes you pay for time period, sometimes you pay for a quantity of data that should be there, and that is something that can be addressed. I believe that will be covered in our next topic. So I'll not go here in details, but that is something you should investigate early on, and think of it early on in your and write it in your data management plan. Also keep in mind the costs, and also keep in mind that when things about long-term preservation, sometimes it can happen after. I mean, it happens long after the research project is well finished. So if this is some very valuable data and needs some migrating to different formats, different files, you should think of it early on in your DMP to find and to give a role to somebody to think of it, to look for this data and to keep it safe, even many years after the project is ended. And also there are some data like observational data that happened in nature. Like I said, astronomical data are very interesting. For instance, you have images of and all the other data about some supernova somewhere in galaxy. That is thing when a star explodes or implodes, whatever, and that is the something that is unique. It will not be repeatable again in nature. So this data should be kept like forever, if that's possible. And that is why also preservation is a great topic, because you should keep in mind that for the file formats, and even if this data should be reused, maybe, I don't know, maybe for 20, 30, or maybe 100 years time from now. So there should be somebody who can migrate that data to different formats and different media. That also should be kept in mind. I'll try to. Okay, how do you apply FAIR principles to sensitive data? I will talk FAIR principles after this. So I will get back to this question later. I will just try to mark it down here for me to know. Okay, yes, Milica answered. She has, there is some webinar on this. Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, I see a raised hand, but it said admin. I don't believe. Okay, would you like to say something? Ask.
Yes, thank you. It's Alamot from Botswana. I really appreciate your presentation. I have some comment, whether it is comment or a point. From my understanding, also, digital literacy by itself, it has negative impact on data sharing and research data management. Though the researcher have doing the research, but there is a big gap between the data literacy. Most of the researcher, they don't have a good understanding toward the data literacy. So as an information professional or the university or academician, we have to also work hard on the upskilling researcher on a data management, data literacy. And the second point, what I want to be add is also from the library. I'm librarian also. Our curriculum, I'm not quite sure about the European curriculum from the developing country curriculum. The library science and information science curriculum, we have to include research data management, data literacy as a core subject somewhere, somehow, because we are moving toward the data science. So we have to also including those subjects or concepts in our curriculum, really for the upcoming library science professional. That is my point. And also the EIFL also, we have to have thinking about to have a short-term training to upscale the librarians in research data management. We really need this type of training. I really appreciate the platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that is good point. Data literacy is very big and important topic. Yes, like I said, the whole thing about this subject of research data management is huge. That there should be different, very sometimes maybe different topics that you should be aware of, and that can be quite challenging when you are presenting this to your researchers. I agree with you. Data literacy is a huge topic. It is not covered in, as far as I know, in Serbian curricula. I'm talking about library and information studies. In the matter of fact, we don't have even information literacy, as far as I know. All these things about open science and everything that we talked about yesterday and the day before, and with data management and fair data and everything, is something that we as librarians here in Serbia learned on our own. This is our effort. We didn't have any official studies at our universities. And as far as I know, there are no such kind of curricula in universities at this moment. And I think it is a huge gap. There are some efforts to do this in our university library. Dragana is working here. They are using huge efforts to teach usually PhD students and researchers, but on the academic level, on bachelor students, I don't think there, as far as I know, that there are no organized teachings on these subjects. And okay, there are here many other questions. Okay, Matic, Bradac, I have a question about data that was collected from databases that are not public but can only be accessed with a subscription. Researchers can't make this data open as they did not create this data. Do you have any suggestions how researchers should deal with this data regarding peer review of publication and producibility of research? Yes, and this is also important because I don't know, I didn't mention it. Yeah, that is why it is important, it is imperative to start with data management plan. All researchers should know what data will they use. Is it going to be generated or like owned by them in a way, or is it going to be reused from some other sources, especially if those resources are on subscription based. So that is why it should be acknowledged and discussed early on at the beginning, and later on when it is used in a, let's say, in a research article, researchers have every right to say this data set is protected by copyright because it was subscribed by this and that company, and it can be used in that way, and it cannot be given to some third parties unless there are some other agreements on that. So that is, but anytime that that researchers are reusing some secondary data, they should acknowledge their data, that data in like citations or other information, and also if it's subscription, who can be contacted for to buy or to have a look on this database. So they should provide some kind of information, additional information on where to find this database. Okay. I hope I answer you this. Okay, I would like to know more on backup of RDM. This is from Gift. This is very important because all of your work, your work for years can be lost within a blink of an eye. Yes, exactly. So are there other open source backup tools with more space apart from those mentioned? Because what you mentioned have a small space for backup and can be increased upon purchasing. Yes, I unfortunately I don't have some really fresh information. I was searching for this maybe, but it was maybe year or year and a half ago last time. There were some backup services that can be used at that time that were initially free, but after I think 100 gigabytes you pay. But that was then. I cannot recommend this, but I will try to find any services that can be used for that, and I will put it in Open Plato. You can find all the links there. That is a good question. And if my advice would be, if you have if you have IT department that is good, that there is a thing called own cloud. I will try to find this here, their link. It is a good solution. It is open source solution for creating and managing your own cloud system. Okay, I will put here link. Yeah, okay, Irena did it. To create your own cloud system for your institution. It is, I think it can be a good solution. Yeah, but I don't know, everything is free to a certain point, and after that, like you said, you have to purchase additional space. That can be tricky. But I will find to find some other resources, and I will share it with you in open later. I created data literacy training framework tailored for researchers encompassing the training of stakeholders, specifically librarians. This framework is part of my recently submitted PhD thesis, which I'm eager to share upon completion of my graduation. Yes, Stanislaus, we are happy to see it. And yeah, I hardly wait to see this, because I think this is what we need at this moment. Okay, so Irena, if there are no questions, I think we are now over the time, probably with our schedule. If you agree, I will continue with my presentation on FAIR principles. I'll share a screen just a moment, just to see where it is. Okay. I hope you okay, I hope, yeah, I hope you can see it now. Okay, this presentation will not be this long. It is about FAIR principles. This is a very interesting and huge topic. There are a lot of debates on this, and I will try to show you some things that you can consider when you are dealing with this at your own institution. So first of all, you have to deal with all the challenges that you can have with your topic. It can be complex, because now more and more institutions are asking for this, and more funders are asking for FAIR data and compliance with the FAIR principles. But and that can be complex, especially because some of the principles are maybe more for more for techie guys, somebody who understands more information science more better. That can be a real technical and challenging to explain to the audience. Things that can be not that easy to explain, like I said, with RDM, it's terminology. What I found is sometimes it's complicated is metadata and metadata standards. Metadata is very important for good FAIR principles. It is one of the crucial elements there, if not the crucial element. So trying to finding a way to teach your researchers on what is metadata is a good way to understand, after that, to understand FAIR principles. Like I said during the RDM presentation, try to have that kind of presentation or training on your own with metadata, and try to cover all the topics and everything that considered the metadata. Another thing that can be also tricky is communication protocols. this is something that I don't understand in a way. I know what should be complied, but it can be not that easy to understand. It is good advice to have somebody from the IT background with you, if you can provide this to help you with explaining these things. But I don't think you have to go to details with FAIR principles. With that, you should know that just to explain what are usual communication protocols that are regarded with this. Also, think with terminologies. One thing is ontologies. It can be something to explain ontologies and control vocabularies. Something that average researchers is not familiar with, if that is not part of their discipline, like molecular biology, for example. Other misconceptions that usually come with FAIR data is usually like with RDM, is that FAIR data equals open data, which is not. It can be complementary. It can be it can be either one or the other concept, but it is not. It doesn't necessarily mean that when something is fair, it is opened. So that is one of the crucial misconceptions to be aware about when you are teaching. Challenge is the steep learning curve. So that means that there are a lot of information on one training usually that needs to be informed and processed by researchers to enable for them to understand the FAIR principles. And like with data management, it can be difficult to persuade researchers to adhere to these principles if it is not mandatory by the institution or funder. So that is one a very important challenge to tackle with. I will not go with details. Okay, my presentation is a bit messy here. I will change it later. You usually start with this describing this as a definition, and of course I encourage researchers to further read this first document, official document on FAIR principles that was from 2016. I always inform my audience that it is now part of the more and more part of the founder requirements. Here are just two examples, but there are more and more of this in our country and in my institution. It is not mandatory, but we are trying and pushing it through to be one of the mandatory principles for a good research in the future. So what they need to know is that is a trend now that more and more institutions and funders are complying with it and importing these policies. So they should be aware of that. Even if they are not dealing research with these funders, then they should know that it will come to your institution one day or very much soon. One of the biggest things to consider when teaching is to explain the whole reason why are FAIR principles important and why do we need them. The thing is that research now is more and more done with computational support, and like I said, with support from the machines. And that means that FAIR data is data that is meant to be usually meant for the machines, more in mind than for the human participants. So fair data enabled to find, access, interoperate, and reuse of data with no or minimal human intervention. That is their goal that they should be striving upon. Even now, there is also one unofficial explanation of this acronym FAIR is fully AI readiness. So that means that in a way, your data should be prepared for the use of computers, or in this case, of artificial intelligence. So what is in context of this research data management, and we have FAIR and we have open data. One of ways I find easy to present this to my audience is with this graph. Like the wild presents the whole data universe out there that is structured or unstructured or whatever. And in that universe, you have a subset of managed data. That is the data that was that came through all the processes that we were talking about early on of research data management. So that is the managed data. And within that subset, there is a smaller subset, and this is the FAIR data. That is the data that is managed, well structured, and safe. But it also adheres to even more compliance level to be fair. And also data can be open, but when data is open, it sometimes doesn't mean that it is managed. It is structured. It is in a good way presented. But what we should tell our audience is that they should concentrate on this intersection of managed and fair data and open data if they want to open data. Another way to present this is like this, with this pyramid. Like managed data is something that is for researchers' interest, for their own interest, to understand this data and to be able to share it. But if they want to share it with others, for others to use it, they should think of it as a fair data. They should impose all the things that are necessary for that data to be even fair. That is like one level up. And only after that, if they want to open that data, then should be that data should be open, not other way around. So usually with training tips, I start with explaining each and every principle, but I do not explain this with reading all the principles out there. I usually concentrate on the biggest issues that are in each principle. For example, in findability principle, Findable principle, the first principle, it is important to know them that they need persistent identifiers, globally unique and persistent identifiers, and you give them an example. What is that? That is, like I said, the problem with terminology. Explain it. What is that? That is like DOI. That is something that they are mostly familiar of and that they can understand that. But also that data and metadata should have this DOI, or even one of them should have persistent identifiers. And you should also explain them that there are more PIDs, or persistent identifiers, than DOI. There are ARC or Handle or many much more. So it depends on their discipline and their research practices. Also, they need every data set, every data need to have a rich metadata, and metadata should pinpoint to the data they describe, And what is also very interesting is because these principles is very important, and if they complied with these principles, it's, I don't know, 80% compliant with all the others. So one of the biggest things consider is to explain that if they choose good repository to deposit their data with good and structured and standardized metadata and DOI and licenses to use, they will finish like 90-95% of their good and fairness of their data. So that is one thing to consider. This is this F4 principle. Another principle, accessible, like I said, this one and the next principle, interoperability, are quite tricky to understand, to present. But when you're talking about these communication protocols, think of it as how are your institutional repositories, if you have one, how are they working? They're working with transferring this information, this metadata, through OAI PMH protocol, usually to other systems. Or one of the communication protocols is HTTP protocol that is used for internet to communicate from server to clients, to other computers. So that is one way of understanding them. And what is interesting is this A2 principles, that metadata should be accessible even when data are no longer available. So that is one thing to keep in mind. This is when you can talk about open data and fair data. If something is fair, it doesn't necessarily mean it should be opened, but in order to be fair, you should deposit and publish your metadata. Data set could be restricted, closed, whatever. If you don't have this privilege of or you don't want to publish your data openly, you can close the data, but metadata should be accessible. So that is one thing to consider. Interoperability is sometimes hard to explain, because I find it very difficult. When I was explaining this to my researchers, I literally got stuck into this when explaining this. But one thing to consider is this second principle is metadata use vocabularies that follow FAIR principles. If you are a librarian or in any kind of connected with this, we usually use this vocabularies. We use some constant and arranged terms that are, we use it in our everyday life, especially when we are, catalogizing books, or if you have a repository when you deposit your works in your information repository. You have some predefined terms that should be used for this and that field. So this is important, but here FAIR principles say that if you use these vocabularies, try that they follow FAIR principles, which means that these control terms should have PID, be in some infrastructure and be connected with other infrastructures. It is quite tricky. I even recently I done a master thesis with this subject. So what is FAIR controlled vocabulary? What should it include, and how to check it? So it can be a little complex topic, but thing to have in mind when you are teaching this topic is to make researchers understand that their data sets and their metadata and even their name like org with org ID are the way that communicate with each other with through internet. That is that connection, and that is that interoperability. Yeah. And one thing to consider is also the last principle, reusability. This is also important because with this principle, researchers acknowledge the terms that they will that somebody can reuse their data, or if that data is restricted, who can use and who can how somebody can contact them to reuse this data. This is where we can also explain Creative Commons licenses, which can be used in this example, and also try to explain this importance of metadata once again, because this first principle says that only rich and described with plurality of accurate and relevant attributes. It's very important to know them, to understand that in order for everybody to reuse their data, it should be understand how to use it. There are many tools. I like to use these fair assessment tools, and we will have this exercise after this. When you have like a data set, maybe you can ask researchers to bring their own data set. Maybe I think sometimes it's the best example. Ask them to bring their own data set, and you can show it and analyze it through these assessment tools. Like you have automated assessment tools like Fuji by Fair, which you can provide URL or DOI of a data set, and it can provide you automatic respond with how much that data set is fair, in compliance with FAIR principles. Others tools that are very useful are these self-assessment tools that you can use, and you can go on through your data set and answer to all the questions, and you can see how your data set is in compliance with FAIR principles. Yes, and some tools are working. If you have DOI, others you can use it manually. So it's up to you, but I recommend you as a way of doing training with your researchers. This is because they will learn on example, and the best their own example, and see probably if their data is fair or not fair, or if there are some things that they should repair and consider about the next time they use data. Yeah, also, this is just for information that FAIR principles are not just for data or metadata. More and more they are included in research software or training materials even, and and the research hardware. Yeah, like this is very interesting topic that is developing right now. There are new ways of making kind of a were created after FAIR principles, and with the FAIR principles in mind. And that this is this trust principle for digital repositories, and also care principles, which I think are interested for everybody who is dealing with we say traditional knowledge that are encompassed from indigenous people, and how they can be taken care of and provided. So what are the tips when you are discussing research data management? Always in that whole package include FAIR principles, because they are very important. They go hand in hand. If you try to just to teach one it will not go good enough without the other. Also, try to explain every terminology with good examples. That is the best way to teach your audience and to teach your researchers to understand what is meant and what they need to do in order to comply with FAIR principles. Yeah, like I said, use real FAIR data in exercises and demonstrations. That is a good way to understand, and that is a good way to discuss with your audience. Maybe you will get some useful insight from your own, and that way you will, enrich your future presentations. Okay, and yes, present use cases like data sets that are now, for example, deposited in some repositories and that are in compliance with FAIR principles, and take a look at them and demonstrate how they are good. And if you can do some computational works, you can show them how easy it is to access and reuse some data set if the data set is complied with FAIR principles. If you don't know if you don't know programming and everything, you can organize hackathon. I didn't do it in my institution, but I was discussing with a colleague from New Zealand maybe 2 years ago and 3 years ago, yeah, and she told me that they had that kind of activities there, and that was a good way to understand good and FAIR practices. So, okay, once again, thank you. And please, if you have questions, now.
Obrad, I have a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
If it's all right with you, since we're a bit behind the schedule,
yes,
and we haven't had the break yet, maybe you can share the FAIR game here and show us the FAIR
okay.
game, at least one data set. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Good. Just a second to find a good example. Okay. Okay, I will show this one. Okay, just to share my screen. Yes, sorry for delay. I know to to talk much, and okay, I think you can see.
Yes, great.
Right
we can
now.
see it.
Okay,
yeah? Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is one example in a Zenodo repository. We have a data set that is related to an article. Okay, what can we see here? I'll try to put it more larger. What can we see here? That this is a data set. This one is restricted, which means that it is not open. And I think this is a good example that data set doesn't mean to be open to be FAIR. So we have metadata. I think this is very rich metadata because the whole repository is a very good repository that has a very good metadata schema. That is a data site. That is a standardized metadata schema. So in this way, this F2 principle is in compliance. Also, we have rich metadata like authors with some have org ID, they have affiliations, they have good description part. We also have versions here. For here now, this is version 1, but if there are more versions, this whole Zenodo repository have a versioning system, which is very good and it can be used. And what is most important, we have here this DOI, which is persistent identifier, which is one of the crucial elements of fairness, data fairness. Also, when it comes to findability principle, yes, I think, yeah, we have practically everything here. You can use, okay, so I cannot see it right now because of this Zoom. Okay, you can use no, it's not here. Okay, you can use, yeah, one of these tools, like I said, and you can post it in and try to find it. Is it under FAIR principles or not? Also, this whole repository is accessible through HTTP and OAI PMH protocol, so accessibility principle is covered. Also, with accessibility principle, we have this, that even though dataset is restricted, it is not open, we have metadata that is open. So in this case, accessibility principle is covered here. Interoperability principle is covered, which there are keywords, but in order for these keywords to be more interoperable, it would be good to have that they are provided with some control vocabulary that is fair. This is not the case with this example, so that is something that can be improved. Zenodo offers you this possibility to include control vocabulary when you are describing your data set. So that is one thing that can be considered to done. When it also comes to interoperability, this data set, this metadata is connected with publications. And here are the persistent identifiers of this publication. That is that way of good connectivity with other data sources. And reusability principle, like we said, we have good and rich metadata. Metadata are in compliance with datasets metadata standard, that is a community standard, that is which has a whole range of community. And also we have here license rights. This is Creative Commons attribution license, and it is machine readable. That is very important also for fairness of data, for data to be machine readable. I will try. Okay, just a quick to demonstrate. I hope you can see Fuji assessment tool. If you provide DOI with this assessment tool and start assessment, it can go automatically. But if you don't have this kind of thing, I recommend you to use one of the manually assessment tools that you can use, and you can provide it manually. Okay, and we can see here the result. So it is 62% fair, this whole data set. Doesn't mean that it is accurate. Fuji is as I know, is still in some development phases, some things. And but you can see which of the principles can be improved. And here are all the principles and what is needed to improve. And like this one is good, and this one no vocabulary namespace, and so on. So
Obrad, sorry to interrupt you, but it is considered to be a high score because you never get to see 100% in
yes. Yeah, you remind me. Good. For this, this is one of the things to consider when dealing with FAIR principles. You cannot, I mean, it's good if you have 100% FAIR, but it is usually not the case. what you should strive for your researchers to have is to have possibly all the principles, especially F and R principles, I think and IAA are most important, to have them covered mostly. So, but if you cover F principle, usually the whole principle, some other principles somehow are covered by themselves. So that's this thing to be compliant. Yeah, I think maybe it's.
Do you want me to read the question, Obrad?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. No. I can see.
Mm-hmm.
Please help me to get this. We're talking about how to certain research data to see if it's fair or not. Assuming you want to reuse data and find out that is not fair, what do you do? And what happens to its existing findings? Yes, like Milica answered this, data can be of high quality, even if they're not compliant with FAIR. That is, like I said, in this triangle or pyramid, good managed data are usually good and reusable for other things. FAIR is just a thing to be more machine readable. That is the aim of FAIR principles. So it doesn't mean that your data are bad if they are not compliant with FAIR principles, but I think that there are ways you can manage and improve, or maybe not improve, and upgrade your data sets to be fair.
If I may add something, so
yes,
if there are some consequences to your data set, not in terms of the validity of data in a scientific sense, but in your potential reuses. For example, if you find a data set that is not fair and it doesn't have a license, and you, for example, need to include this data set in your future data set, the resulting data set, you may not be able to do this, and you may not be able, for example, to publish your data set under a free license. So this affects the quality of your data set, etc. But if the data are okay, if they are relevant for your research, there are other ways to overcome these issues. I mean, if the quality of data is okay, it's not a problem for your research if they are not fair. You can use it, and you can come to research conclusions based on this data.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. And
is it possible to use different assessment tools to confirm whether it is fair or not?
Yes, of course. You have this in this presentation, and you will have these tools in OpenPlato. There are many tools. Some of them are good, some of them are not that good, but it is up to you to investigate, to search, and to use dataset, to use fair assessment tools that are the most convenient for your teachings. Okay.
But shall we go on a break, or
yes,
what? I don't know what others think. And maybe it's not a bad idea to.
I think it's a good
15-20 minute break. Yeah. Chat. I'll share a few links in a chat. There is an RDM handbook that I really liked. It's like it's a workbook for researchers that it can help them improve their RDM skills. And I'll share a link to Zenodo document. It is sample data management plans for training purposes. So you can take a look at these plans. They are they are made exclusively for training, so the trainees can assess them. They can assess if the DMP is fair and if they are missing some parts. So they can be really useful in trainings, and I haven't shared the links in my presentation, so that's why I'm sharing them here. So just a second. I'll just share my presentation. Okay, let me see where it is. Here it is, data management plan. Can you see it?
Yes, now
Yes.
it's okay.
Okay, great. So today I will talk about data management plans. So I'll keep it brief. I'll try to answer a few questions. First of all, what is a data management plan? Why is it important for research? What are the elements of a DMP, and which tools can make our work easier when creating a DMP? So what is a data management plan? The definition is that it is a document that outlines how research data will be handled both during the project and after it. Depending on funders' requirements, DMPs can vary in length. So if you look up, for example, National Institutes of Health, you will find that their DMPs are recommended to be at most 2 pages long, so 2 pages or less in length. But if you open Zenodo and search for Horizon Europe's data management plans or Horizon 2020, you will see that they can be pretty long and and very, very detailed. So the second thing that is really important is that you have to keep in mind that DMP is a living document. So what does it actually mean? It means that DMPs evolve over time. So they should be updated during the project, during the project, the research project, and there are usually a few versions of DMP, and the last version is the one at the end of the project. So we can say actually that the DMP is done when the project is done. DMPs are also mandatory, and they are mandatory not only on the account of funders, of funding agencies, but also by the increasing number of national policies and institutional policies. And not only that, but also many universities strongly advise their doctoral students to create DMPs for their doctoral dissertations. So why is DMP important for research? Well, first of all, researchers write DMP they write it for the sake of their own research. The important thing is that DMPs keep the data safe, because data can get lost, it can be inaccessible, and we have to keep in mind that it is really important because creating that data can really be expensive, and I'm not talking only in monetary sense, but it takes time and human resources to collect the data. And apart from that, it is sometimes in the course of time, it is hard for researchers to find their way around their files, folders, because they have a great number of it, and they name file usually as they like it. So after a period of time, they can't find the thing that they're looking for. And DMPs can also help them organize the data and easily navigate through their own files. Creating a DMP is considered a good practice in any research project. And it also helps you consider the necessary resources and costs for data management, costs of keeping your data fair. So you can budget these costs and even include them in your grant applications. What should be included in a data management plan? So the typical, if you're creating DMP for your institution or for a funding agency, first thing you should do is check if there is a specific template that is available or even required by funder or your institution. DMPs DMP templates can slightly vary between organizations, but they typically cover the following topics, the one that you can see here. Obrad talked about these topics in great detail, so I'll just briefly go through them. So the first topic is data summary and description, and you're expected here to write about methods of collecting data, types of data. You have to state whether you'll use primary or secondary data, to define data formats, data size. As for metadata and documentation, you should state which metadata, how will you describe the data set, and which metadata will be assigned to the data set, which metadata standard you will use, how do you plan to organize the folders, which naming collections you'll use. As for storage, backup, and security, Obrad already explained this, so you have to explain where you're planning to store your data, how do you plan to backup it, and you should in this part also state who will have the access to the data in which part of project implementation, and you have to name these people or person. As for ethics and legal compliance, so you cannot share the data if they are not compliant with laws of your own country or GDPR. As for data sharing and reuse, so you have to explain where are you planning on sharing your data sets and under which license. So if your data are going to be in open access, then you assign licenses, but if it is going to be closed, then explain why will it remain closed. As for the responsibilities and resources, you usually write here who will be responsible for implementation of the DMP, what are the responsibilities of data stewards. As for the costs, you will write what are the costs of, for example, making your data fair. Here you can find on this slide, you can find some useful tools and such as wizards and checklists and templates. You've got a couple of links here that can maybe help you. It is important to highlight here that some institutions are subscribed to specific tools. So if you decide to use some of these tools, better check if your institution has already a subscription. So for independent researchers, most of these tools are available for free. The only thing you have to do is create an account and log in. Some of these you can use by logging in through different accounts, or IDs, or even X. Additionally, there are checklists. On the next slide, I have prepared an example of a checklist. This checklist was developed by Data Curation Center. So as you can see here, it is divided into sections. The gray ones are the sections. So on the left, you've got questions that need to be answered. And on the right, you actually have the right answers. You have suggestions how to answer these questions. And these checklists can be really useful. I've selected two DMP tools to show you here. So one is DMP, one of them is DMP Online. And as I told you, some institutions are subscribed to some tools, and also keep in mind that funders and institutions have also they also provide templates that they require you to fill. So these tools for creating DMP usually have templates. And as you already know, when it comes to data, your audience is not only people, it's not only human, but also machines. So these DMPs are usually machine readable, and which is also important. This tool, DMP Online, is free. You can use it free of charge. You just need to create an account, and it also provides templates. So you get a template by when you log in. The first thing you have to do to name your DMP, and if you are making a mock DMP, then there is a checkbox that you can mark here. And here you select the research organization you're creating DMP for, and funding organization. So these two fields are auto-completed. So as you start typing, it will provide you with suggestions. But if your research organization or funding organization is not listed, this is just for the sake of giving you a template. But if your research organization and funding organizations are not listed, you can just check the box next to these fields. Next tool is Argos. It is created by OpenAIRE, and I already mentioned OpenAIRE in benefits of repositories. So it's a European infrastructure. Here you can access, you can see, you can read public DMPs. Sometimes it is a good thing to see what DMP is supposed to look like. And it also provides templates. So you'll see that we keep repeating, you get templates, provides templates. And I think that it is really important, and it makes your work easier, because it's one thing when you have to sit in front of a blank paper and start typing your DMP, creating it, but when you have questions that you actually have to answer, it is completely different thing. You can export DMPs from Argos. You can export them in different file formats. You can export them in XML, Word, PDF, JSON, and it is free for researchers. So as you can see, you can use different accounts to log into Argos. And the one feature it has, which can be really useful, is that you can export DMPs from Argos directly to Zenodo. So this is brief DMP. My plan was to split into breakout rooms, but I think you can maybe do it at home as some kind of homework. We can, but I already think that that the DMPs for training purposes are also in Open Plato, so you can access them and go through them. Do you have any questions maybe?
See any in the chat? Maybe you can carry on with your second presentation.
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat. Robert, thank you for sharing the links. I will move on to my next presentation. You can see it, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Data publishing.
Yes, we can see it, yes.
I don't know if actually someone said something, because my internet connection is really poor. So maybe if you want to say something, or
No, we all
you
said that
can
we
write
see
it
your
in the chat.
presentation. We see the presentation. That's what we see.
No, I just can't hear anything. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So you can
At last.
keep talking.
Thank you. So another topic I will cover today is data publishing. I will try to answer a couple of questions here too. So first one being, why should researchers choose to publish their data? Where should they publish them, and what to deposit? So first of all, I would like to clarify some concepts and differences to get clear what is the difference between depositing and giving access to data. So depositing data means that you will upload the data set, digital object on platform, and that you will assign rich metadata to it, and with persistent identifiers, and that you will on a platform that implements long-term preservation. As for giving access, that is the next step that comes after depositing. So once the data set, the object that you are depositing is uploaded, this is when you actually give access to the data set. So it can be open, closed, embargoed, restricted, and you are supposed to assign a license to the object that you uploaded, so that to make the reuse of the data set possible. As for the difference between sharing, publishing, and archiving, we have to set some rules. What is the main difference between three of those terms? First of all, if we talk about sharing, so sharing is practically any way of sharing information. We can share information within a specific group. We can share within institution or within institutions that are together on one project. But publishing is a whole different thing. Publishing means that you have actually deposited and given access to something that you have made the digital object citable and discoverable, and archiving is ensuring long-term preservation. So the first question is why should researcher choose to publish their data? So first of all, in many cases, it is a requirement. So journals are increasingly mandating the submission of supporting data alongside the articles. And funding agencies are also requiring the publication of data. Also, there were some surveys that showed that results of these surveys showed that public trust in scientific research is strengthened when the supporting data is made accessible. Publishing data offers substantial benefits not only to researchers but also to institution and the broader community, and it enhances researchers' visibility. So if you deposit data sets into a repository properly, meaning you've uploaded, first of all, everything that needs to be uploaded, and you've described the data set with rich metadata, you've assigned it a persistent identifier, then it enhances the visibility, so it can be accessible by the wide range of researchers, which also can attract new collaborations. So it is definitely beneficial for researchers. Also, when deposited, the data set can potentially also increase the number of citation for associated publications, but data sets can also be cited. Also, researchers should keep in mind that allowing others to reproduce or replicate their results increases transparency, and thereby it increases their reputation as a researcher. So now that we've established why should the researchers share data, the next question is where can they do that? So there are a couple of answers to this question. First of all, they can publish data, in data repositories. They can publish it in data papers and data journals, and they can publish it in generalist repositories. So let's start with the data repositories. Data repositories is actually a term for a database, a repository that where you can upload, manage, and store exclusively data. And the most important question, most important question is where can researchers find a suitable repository for their data set. So first of all, they have to check if funding agency specifies where they're supposed to publish their data. Also, they should check if there are any recommendations within their field, because in some research domains, there may be a so to say, consensus on the best suited repositories for a specific purpose or data type. Also, you can consult journals where you plan to publish if they suggest any specific repositories that data can be published. Apart from all that, researchers can use registries like Re3 data. I know that these screenshots are really small, so you practically cannot see anything, but there are links assigned to these screenshots. So if you download the presentation, you can easily access these websites. So Re3 data is a registry of research data repositories, and there you can browse the repositories on by topic, by content, by subject, by content, by country, and also when you choose in which way you want to search Re3 data, you will have also additional filters that you can apply. So it makes it really easy to find the repository that suits you the best. Also, there is a substantial number of repositories on a website, fairsharing.org. It also offers filters, so which you can use to find everything that you need. So you can publish a repository in data papers and data journals. So data sets are increasingly recognized as scholarly products, and they're now being submitted for standalone publication, which help sharing data within standardized framework, and which increases recognition of authors and their impact and value. So what exactly is a data paper? A data paper is a comprehensive description of data sets. They typically exclude interpretation or discussion, and some data papers are published in a dedicated data paper section of a journal, but there are also journals that are that exclusively publish data papers. If you're wondering how to find data journals, I've given you here first one is a paper from 2020, which has a list of data papers in the appendix. And the other one is a link where there is a detailed list of data journals where you can find information about the name of the journal, publisher, article processing charges, license, journal impact factor, and Scopus site score. apart from data papers and data repositories, you can also use general repositories to publish your data. So general repositories host data regardless of type, content, or subject. And there is generalist repository chart in Zenodo that can really come in handy. You've got it here in the top. It's rather small. I'll correct it later. So it is a really detailed comparison table. So you can choose the best repository for you. So the first repository I've listed here is Dryad or Dryad. I never know how to pronounce this. It is curated general purpose repository, and you can submit most types of files here. So text, spreadsheets, videos, compressed files. And you have to keep in mind that you have to pay data processing charges for using this repository. Next repository, generalist repository, is Figshare. It is open generalist repositories. Researchers can share here data set, images, videos. Figshare has a limit of 5 gigabytes per file, and you get with a free account 20 gigabytes of free storage. Mendeley Data. It is an open research data repository where researchers can store, they can share their data, and the data can be shared privately between users. And personal accounts have maximum limit of 10 gigabytes per data set. Next repository is Harvard Dataverse. It is an open source web application developed by Institute of Quantitative Social Science at Harvard University. So the main thing here is that journals, institutes, individuals can choose to install Dataverse web application on their own servers, or they can use Harvard's installation for free. Harvard has a limit of 2.5 gigabytes per file and 10 gigabyte limit per data set. Open Science Framework is actually a free project management tool that supports data set upload, and it is free of charge, and it has a 5 gigabyte limit per file. And the last one is Zenodo. It was developed by CERN. It is free, and it has a 50 gigabyte limit per data set. So briefly, just what are we supposed to deposit when we, for example, deposit paper in a data set in a repository. So everything that will make it clear for researcher, for user, for someone who is looking at your data set, what they are looking at. So you deposit data best in open file formats, metadata, detailed metadata. We strongly suggest that you use existing standards and literally any other documentation that can be explanatory: code books, study context, dataset structure notes, annotations, consent information and so on, and also README files. I've given here an example of a good README file. It is just a plain text document that that you store alongside the data file, and you give information about the data set itself. So that's it from me. I'll stop sharing now.
Thank you so much. I don't see any questions in the chat. Dear colleagues, do you have any questions?
Well, okay, we're right on schedule, Irina.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for the presentation. I want to find out, talking about data publishing. So the data I have collected, analyzed, interpreted, I can publish that same data set and be counted as a publication, a paper I have published. Is that the case?
Can you repeat? So if you can publish the data set itself. So that is the way you can use it to publish it in data papers or data journals. Yes.
And it can be counted as a publication, a paper that has been published. Is that
yes, and it gets cited.
Gets cited.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
But I think we should clarify that some institutions count them as publications and some don't.
Yeah, okay.
So it really depends on institutional and national approaches. Maybe if you would be working in the Dutch university, maybe in the Netherlands they would count, but I'm not sure it's the case for your institution.
Okay.
But I think that if they're published in journals, they are most likely to be counted as publications.
Yeah.
But if they're deposited, for example, in our country, we don't have any awareness of data publication. But if they publish it in a journal, then it's counted as a paper, as a journal article. But if it's published in a repository, then it's not really counted. Though in some countries, there are attempts to introduce new policies that will actually take into account this type of outputs.
Yes, that is.
So let me seek further clarification. Now, assuming I'm using SPSS to do my analysis, I have what we have called the data view. So what I have in the data view, the codes, the things that I've coded there, is that what I can publish?
I'm sorry if I understood. You have a code and you want to publish it.
What I'm saying is
was used to work with it.
I administered a questionnaire. Now the questionnaire has been filled. I have inputted that data, but I have not interpreted, I have not analyzed it. That is what I can publish.
You can publish anything. You can publish raw data. You can publish the data at different levels of analysis. And as for SPSS, it's not a recommended format. So it's much better if you're although many people doing psychology research and sociology research, they are using SPSS. This is proprietary software, and the format is proprietary, and they still publish a lot of data in this format. It's not really recommended. For example, we have some colleagues that are now switching to R, and they are using R instead of SPSS. But basically, if you this is quite tricky. So people usually say that if there is a huge research community, and if software is available within this research community that can use these files, then it's kind of okay to use SPSS, to publish SPSS files. But we would certainly recommend using R or something, or you can always export your data in the CSV format. But for the stages of data analysis, it's up to you to decide which data you want to publish at what stage.
So, okay, so let me find out. I have the data analysis. I have the data. I don't do any write-up. I don't interpret, I don't analyze. Now, before coming to data 2, I don't give any explanation. It's just the raw data. Is that the case?
Yeah,
You would still have to explain how you collected this data, because you in a data paper you're supposed to provide some context. So
Okay.
you will have to say that you interviewed so many people, you have consent forms, or I don't know,
Okay.
some basic descriptions, and then you can make this data available.
Okay.
And also keep in mind that some rule of the thumb is that if you have, if you want, what you want when you publish your data, is it to verify certain research? In that case, you could just publish a processed data that was finished with some analyzing and processed. And if you want that data to be reused for other purposes in future, then it is best to publish raw data.
Okay.
That is one of principles, of course, but it is not general rule.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Now, let me take you back a little. The research data management tools. The tools, I think Irena spoke about it. I didn't get, there was a link she attached to them. I didn't get the link. So if she wouldn't mind, can share the link with me, or maybe.
Oh, of
share
course,
that
you
slide.
didn't get tools.
Yeah, the tools. There was the link to the tools, yeah.
Okay, there are links in a presentation which I
Yes,
closed, unfortunately. Yes. I will open it and show you. There is separate there is a separate slide with only links. Just a second.
Okay.
Let me show it to you, just to be sure that that I understood the question properly. So DMP. Just a second. I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but
it's okay. I've really enjoyed your session as well.
Thank you. Share here. So
yeah, maybe you can share the link from your presentation to the chat.
So here, see, you've got the tools for creating DMP. Is this what you were talking about?
Yeah, yes. This one. Let me screenshot it quickly. Thank you.
Irena, can you hear me? Irena?
Yeah, almost nothing.
Okay.
I really have connectivity issues. Maybe if I stop sharing, just a second.
Some questions in the chat. If you can't see, we will cover this. So what can we say? Can we say that putting the data in repository is just uploading and archiving primary data, while publishing the data involves the publishers? Well, not really. So you can publish, it doesn't have to involve publishers. You can publish your data in a repository, as Irena has explained. So you can decide what you want. So putting data in a repository is not merely, may not be merely archiving. It can be full-fledged publishing.
That is the problem with terminology, because publishing is used usually when you say publishing, you think about really publishing a paper in a journal or a book. But publishing, like Milica said, in repository is depositing in a repository and sharing it. It's called publishing also.
No, for me, it's a little bit confusing. I would still say making data available in the repository or depositing data. I wouldn't call it publishing, because then, and it really implies that there is some peer review going on, and in some cases there is, in some cases there is no.
Yeah, we've been using the wrong term. We should talk about sharing data and making data available, and not really publishing. But basically, if we go back to Monday's session, when I was talking about publishing process that now moves throughout the research life cycle, this is what we basically meant. You can now publish all sorts of stuff.
Yes, and about this publishing in data journal, it usually goes with a data set that is in some way interesting for that kind of publishing. Usually some how I say specific or peculiar data sets that are that could be very interesting for research public to see that there is that data set and the way how it was captured or generated.
There is also a question from Austin. Does publishing data set in a data journal goes through the normal process of peer review as it is in a manuscript publishing? I would say yes. I think it should go, but I don't have personal experience, so I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we know colleagues who publish data sets, and it goes.
It's a regular journal, like any other. I mean, any other peer-reviewed high quality journal. I mean, a lot of highly these publishers like Elsevier and Springer had these kind of data journals.
And it's a slightly different genre, but it's basically just like an article.
And do we know any journal independent peer review of data sets? Like there are initiatives of preprints reviewing, other initiatives of reviewing data sets in repositories? Not really, right? Other than actual curation processes in repositories?
No, I'm not aware of this. There are talks about this, but I don't see these things happening. It's a good way of reviewing data. You will talk tomorrow about this. It occurs in pre-registration processes where people pre-register research, and if they submit some data with the report, then this peer review may occur in case of peer-reviewed pre-registered reports.
Thanks a lot. So I guess we can wrap up for today. Thanks a lot, Obrad and Irena. It was very, very comprehensive, and thanks a lot for taking time to explain. That was important, and I'm glad that we had time for questions and discussion. Thank you so much. So tomorrow we'll talk about other aspects of open science that we haven't covered yet, other than open access to publications and research data management. We will also talk about making training materials fair as an example of using FAIR principles in our work as trainers. All presentations or other useful resources from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are on OpenPlater, and everyone should see them without even logging in. I'll just put again link. And I also uploaded recordings of Monday and Tuesday, and I will upload today's recording as well later today. Thanks a lot for joining, and see you tomorrow. Thank you. Sorry, one more thing, that we will have time tomorrow and on Friday for your stories of best and worst training experience, if you want to share that. So keep that in mind, and let me know tomorrow or on Friday if you want to share your experiences. Thank you and bye.